An open letter to the Government of Canada, the members of the Canadian Senate, and the members of the House of Commons of Canada, especially the Right Honourable Stephen Harper, the Honourable Michael Ignatieff, the Honourable Jack Layton, the Honourable Peter Kent, Member of Parliament Gilles Duceppe, and Member of Parliament Dean Del Mastro. I'm sure you're all very excited right now, what with all the flurry on the Hill, as to whether or not there will be an election this year, but it is very important that whoever gains or maintains power, that government and opposition can unite on meaningful climate change legislation and accept that scientific refrain of 80 to 90% reduction of emissions by the middle of this century as compared to 1990 levels. Our nation's performance on the issue of climate change has been spectacular in the most literal sense of the word, in that we have made a spectacle of ourselves. Internationally, Canada has eroded the effectiveness of climate change summits in Kyoto, Bali, Poznan, Copenhagen, and Cancun, and has even swept the Colossal Fossil Award over the last 4 conferences of the parties. At home, our country has emitted so much carbon dioxide that it has managed to make it into the top 10 most emissions-prolific economies by sheer volume and per capita, and that is an honor we share only with the United States of America. And even though our emissions intensity has decreased by over a fifth between 1992 and 2006, the growth of our economy has nullified that. And it will continue to nullify it if the current government's dream of a Canada as an energy and extraction superpower comes to its sooty fruition. However, this is not exclusively an indictment of our current environmental policies, as no federal government has played a positive part in an international environmental coup since the Montreal Accord over 20 years ago. What this open letter is really about is the future. Well, the fashion of climate politics is the great global blame game, in which we can blame the Europeans who birthed this carbon-spewing economic model, who can in turn blame the Indians who will become too competitive if the cuts are uneven, who can in turn blame the Gulf states who have provided the fuel for all this degradation, who can blame the Chinese for their profligate coal burning, who can hold the Americans responsible for buying so much, who for their part can say their hands are tied while the rest of the world is emitting. It is a political Mobius strip, along which we can travel without getting anywhere. So I'm asking you, all of you, to stop this madness and get Canada onto the road, or should I say bike lane, bus, or train line to carbon neutrality. And we can of course play as a progressive force in the next round of climate negotiations by demanding strict targets for emissions reductions for the industrialized countries, and the creation of an equitable mechanism for technology transfers to the global south, so they don't have to emit as much as we did, or in some cases still do, to achieve a reasonable degree of material prosperity that ensures all citizens can eat and have shelter and have access to public spaces, sanitation, access to information, to healthcare, and to leisure time. But why wait until COP17? That's almost a year away, and there's plenty we can do right now. We need a national initiative to reduce the extraction and use of fossil fuels, and we have to shrink that part of our economy. And to match that, we need massive reinvestment in public transportation and sustainable power production, plus focusing on energy efficiency. And if handled correctly with the right procurement laws, the changes made to our economy will generate jobs within this country, and by focusing on local infrastructure, we can at the same time foster a better sense of community, as well as saving emissions by decreased transportation. Now this is not new, and it's not profound. And it wasn't new or profound a decade ago, or even a decade and a half ago. We, and I mean the responsible people for this crisis everywhere, have wasted a very long time. We can no longer wait for someone else to go first. We have to go now. And if we do, perhaps Canada can become an example of Western civilization that shows a path of justice for its fellow countries and unborn generations. If you believe, however, that Canada need not worry about a warming future, because we do not suffer in this time and place as much as others do, and their suffering is tolerable to you, know that it is not tolerable to me. A new voter like me, born in the year 1992, is projected to live until the early 2070s. Now, according to the IPCC, by that year 2070, unmitigated climate change will put an end to such things as snowpack in the Rocky Mountains, or ice over the Arctic Circle, or the nations of Fiji or Tuvalu or Bangladesh. It will put an end to Florida and to Amsterdam and to Venice. And of the people still living on dry land, 150 million of them will be vulnerable to coastal flooding globally. That is the world I have to live in for the rest of my life. I will remember that, as will everyone else in my generation, as they head to the polls for the first time. I trust you know what to do next.